The cataclysmic detonation of a nuclear weapon unleashes a torrent of destruction and horror, its effects reverberating instantaneously across the landscape and into the lives of those unfortunate enough to be caught within its grasp. This section delves into the intricate web of devastation wrought by nuclear war, examining each immediate effect in detail to illuminate the magnitude of its impact. Blast wave and thermal radiation. The detonation of a nuclear bomb is an event of unimaginable violence, characterized by the sudden release of immense energy in the form of a blast wave and thermal radiation. The blast wave, traveling at speeds exceeding the sound barrier, tears through the surrounding environment with unstoppable force, shattering buildings, uprooting trees, and hurling debris with lethal velocity. In an instant, the urban landscape is transformed into a chaotic tableau of destruction, where structures crumble like sandcastles and the once familiar streets are reduced to rubble-strewn wastelands. Concurrent with the blast wave, thermal radiation bathes the area in searing heat, exceeding temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. Everything within the vicinity of the explosion is subjected to an inferno of incandescent fury, as buildings ignite in flames and organic matter is vaporized in a fraction of a second. The human body offers little resistance to this onslaught of thermal energy, succumbing to the intense heat with horrifying swiftness. In the blink of an eye, lives are snuffed out, leaving behind only charred remnants and the agonized cries of the injured and dying. The combined effects of the blast wave and thermal radiation create a scene of apocalyptic devastation, where the laws of nature are subverted by the unleashed fury of mankind's most destructive creation. In the immediate aftermath of a nuclear detonation, the landscape is transformed into a hellscape of twisted metal and scorched earth, where the cries of the wounded mingle with the roar of flames and the stench of burning flesh hangs heavy in the air. Ionizing radiation. While the initial fury of the blast wave and thermal radiation may subside, the insidious threat of ionizing radiation lingers on, casting a long shadow over the survivor's fragile existence. In the aftermath of a nuclear detonation, radioactive isotopes are dispersed into the atmosphere, contaminating the surrounding environment with invisible tendrils of deadly radiation. These isotopes emit a spectrum of ionizing radiation, including gamma rays, beta particles, and alpha particles, capable of penetrating the human body and wreaking havoc at the cellular level. Those unfortunate enough to be exposed to high levels of radiation experience the agonizing onset of acute radiation sickness, characterized by nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and severe burns. As the body's cells succumb to the relentless assault of ionizing radiation, vital organs fail, and the once healthy individual is reduced to a hollow shell of their former self. Even those who escape the immediate effects of radiation sickness are not spared, as the long-term consequences of radiation exposure manifest in the form of cancer, genetic mutations, and reproductive abnormalities. The specter of radiation contamination hangs heavy over the survivor's shattered existence, casting a pall of uncertainty over their future health and well-being. No corner of the earth remains untouched by the invisible menace of ionizing radiation, as contaminated soil, water, and air conspire to perpetuate the cycle of suffering and death. In the wake of nuclear war, the very fabric of life itself is irrevocably altered, as the silent killer known as ionizing radiation exacts its toll on humanity's fragile existence. Electromagnetic pulse, ESMP. In addition to the physical and thermal effects of nuclear detonation, the release of an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, presents a unique and often overlooked threat to modern civilization. Unlike conventional explosives, which rely on the kinetic energy of their blast wave to inflict damage, nuclear weapons generate an electromagnetic pulse capable of disrupting electronic devices and infrastructure over vast distances. The mechanism behind EMP is relatively simple yet devastating in its implications. When a nuclear bomb detonates at a high altitude, it releases a burst of gamma rays that ionize the surrounding atmosphere, creating a rapidly expanding electromagnetic field. This field induces electrical currents in conductive materials such as power lines, communication cables, and electronic circuits, overwhelming their delicate components and rendering them inoperable. The consequences of EMP are wide-ranging and profound, affecting everything from power grids and telecommunications networks to transportation systems and critical infrastructure. In the immediate aftermath of a nuclear detonation, the collapse of electronic systems plunges affected areas into darkness, leaving millions without access to electricity, communication, or transportation. The disruption of essential services exacerbates the chaos and confusion already gripping the survivors, hindering rescue and recovery efforts and prolonging their suffering in the aftermath of nuclear war. Firestorms. Perhaps the most terrifying aspect of nuclear war is the specter of firestorms, where the intense heat and widespread fires generated by a nuclear detonation give rise to a conflagration of unprecedented scale and ferocity. In urban areas subjected to nuclear explosions, the initial thermal radiation ignites flammable materials with alarming efficiency, transforming buildings, vegetation, and debris into towering infernos that rage out of control. As the flames leap from structure to structure, consuming everything in their path, they create powerful updrafts that draw in fresh air to fuel the firestorm's voracious appetite. The resulting conflagration generates hurricane-force winds that fan the flames, creating a self-sustaining vortex of destruction capable of engulfing entire city blocks in a matter of minutes. The intense heat and toxic smoke produced by the firestorm make escape impossible for those caught in its path, condemning them to a fiery death amidst the chaos and carnage. The aftermath of a firestorm is a landscape of desolation and despair, where the once thriving metropolis lies in ruins, reduced to a smoldering wasteland of charred debris and ash. The boundary between life and death is blurred by the relentless advance of the flames, as the survivors struggle to comprehend the scale of the devastation wrought by nuclear war. In the face of such overwhelming destruction, hope seems like a distant memory, lost amidst the ashes of a world consumed by its hubris. This detailed exploration of the immediate effects of nuclear war seeks to capture the visceral horror and existential dread unleashed by the detonation of nuclear weapons. From the devastating force of the blast wave and thermal radiation to the insidious threat of ionizing radiation and the chaos wrought by electromagnetic pulses and firestorms, the toll exacted by nuclear conflict is both profound and irreversible. In the next section, we will examine the societal collapse and humanitarian crisis that follow in the wake of nuclear devastation as communities struggle to cope with the aftermath of annihilation.